guys, what's up? Alex Scott here with Consordini.com. Thank you so much for checking out another one of our super cool studio gear reviews. Today we are taking a look at a very interesting microphone. This is the AEA N22 active ribbon mic. Now, AEA is a really cool company. They're one of the more high-end manufacturers of modern mics, and they specialize in ribbon mics and preamps designed for ribbon mics. The guys at AEA actually reached out to us about a month ago and said, hey, we really like your reviews. Would you be interested in taking a look at a few of our microphones? And I said, yes, absolutely. I have used the AEA R84 in the past, which is kind of a modern homage to the classic RCA R44, which is a very old school ribbon mic, and I loved that mic. Unfortunately, was never able to afford one of my own because they are a little bit pricey, but a fantastic mic nonetheless. So when they reached out and they said, hey, we would love for you to take a look at a few of our more modern designs, I was really intrigued. And this is one of those more modern designs. It's the N22. It is an active ribbon mic, like I said, which means that it does require phantom power, which is kind of unusual for a ribbon mic. Normally, if you were to run phantom power into like a vintage ribbon mic, it could actually damage the microphone. It's definitely something you don't want to do. But in this case, there is an active circuit inside that helps to kind of compensate for the top end loss that you might get with a normal ribbon mic design. So this is a long form ribbon, and AEA describes it as a near field microphone. So it's really specifically designed for close miking, things like guitar amps, things like pianos, getting right up on the strings of a piano and getting a really nice clear sound. It does have apparently a very extended top end, a very detailed and natural top end. Again, that's coming from the active circuitry in there. Normally with a ribbon mic, you think of it as being a little bit rolled off or darker in the top, but having a really rich and kind of expansive velvety low end. So I think that what they've done with the active circuitry here is try to capture the best of both worlds, from that classic low end of a ribbon mic as well as a nice extended, very modern sounding top end. So I have not heard this mic yet at all. I'm very excited to check it out. So we're going to take it out to the tracking room. I want to set it up on a piano as just a mono piano mic right in the center, and then we're going to set it up on a guitar amp and play a little bit of Fender Rhodes through the guitar amp. So we'll get kind of a few different variants on how it's going to sound on those few instruments. But let's head out to the tracking room and give it a listen. Okay guys, so here we've got the N22 set up, close miking the hammers on my upright piano. Now, AEA does kind of recommend that this mic be used within 12 inches of its sound source. Apparently part of what the active circuitry is doing is compensating for proximity effect to kind of retain some of that top end and don't, not get as much low end boom as you might normally close miking something with a ribbon mic. So, I've got 8, 10 something inches right off the hammers. Let's see how it sounds. Okay guys, so now we have our N22 set up about 3 inches off of this Fender Hot Rod George Benson signature. We've got our Fender Rhodes plugged in. I went with a Rhodes because it's notorious for being really boomy when you mic it through an amp. So I just have the amp set really neutral. We're just going to play the Rhodes a little bit and see how this mic does in this particular application. Okay guys, so there you go. The AEA N22 Near Field Active Ribbon Microphone. This is a very interesting mic, and I've got to say it's not at all what I was expecting. The way they describe this mic on their site, as well as the N8, which we were also sent as a demo unit to check out, is that they're very open and very modern sounding and have this incredibly accentuated top end. Now this N22 in particular, because it is designed as more of a near field or close miking mic, they said, well, we've tried to reduce the proximity effect and make it still sound really clear and natural when you have something close mic'd. Now, I will say on the road, Rhodes on the guitar amp, as I'm sure you guys heard, that sounded excellent. It sounded very, very good. It definitely had a lot of control to the proximity effect. You know, it wasn't getting overly boomy, which Rhodes through an amp has a tendency of bringing out a lot of low-end boom in microphones. This handled that very, very well, and I did hear a nice, kind of more detailed top end than I'm used to hearing on a ribbon on that particular source. Now, on the piano, it was a very different animal to my ear. It sounded very mid-rangey, almost like whatever they're doing to cancel out the proximity effect was cutting out too much of the low end. You know, that piano I really like because it's a very rich sounding piano. It's got a very broad frequency spectrum to it. Usually uprights are a little more honky or nasally. That upright I actually chose specifically because it sounded not like a grand. An upright will never sound like a grand, but it had the most open tonality that I've ever heard in an upright piano. This mic, I don't feel like really captured that accurately. It felt very dark and rolled off in the top end, which I would expect from any ribbon mic. But then in the low end, it really didn't have much of that velvety, rich, creamy, warm lows. Now, I understand that this active circuitry is supposed to be counteracting proximity effect, which would mean controlling the low end. But, you know, we had the mic not right up on the hammers, maybe 8 or 10 inches off the hammers. So maybe I just need to get it closer to kind of even that out. I'd have to experiment with it a little bit more, but just throwing it up and kind of getting first impressions of it, it really didn't have the rich low end that I was expecting. You know, again, on their site, they describe it as being very open, very natural, very detailed, and even when you're close miking, having this incredibly broad frequency range, and that's really not what I heard from it. I heard it as more being similar in the top end to other ribbon mics that I've used in the past, passive ribbon mics, which are known for being a little darker, but then being a little lacking in the low end, particularly on that piano. You know, again, on the Rhodes with the amp, where we had it right up against the amp, that did sound nice and rich. That did have a good, very balanced low end. I wouldn't say it accentuated it, but I could hear where they're kind of pulling back on that proximity effect. But on the piano, it, to be honest, was a little bit disappointing. You know, if I had a really dense mix, I could absolutely see using this on the piano. It did have a very nice old school, reminded me kind of old 50s or 60s recordings that you hear of piano, which were done with like old RCA ribbon mics or the Coles 4038 or anything like that, where it has a darker vibe to it, and it kind of helps to narrow the bandwidth of the piano to help it sit in a mix with a lot of other instruments. In that kind of a circumstance, I think this would be a very cool mic. I think you could get a really interesting tonality out of it. You know, on their website, it says this mic is designed to be placed inches away from a source without having to roll off any low end, and you know, it says that it's going to deliver you an extended top end response on that instrument without having to do any additional EQing. And that's true in the low end, at least it was on the piano. You know, it did cut a lot of lows out. And it does say it has a bump at 3K, which I definitely hear on the piano. But 3K to me is not top end. That's your upper mids. And so while that might be great on a vocal, and the site does say, you know, vocals and kick drums and kind of more of these sources are really great with it. For something like close miking a piano, which was just the first thing that I naturally gravitated towards to really hear what it can do, because piano is such a broad frequency instrument, I really felt like it just clamped down on the band a little bit too much. Now, again, if I had a really dense mix, if I had a ton of different instruments going on in a track, and I needed the piano to really sit in a very defined space within a production, I think it could be very cool for that. It would give it a very vintage, again, kind of a band-passed sound to it that I think could be very effective in helping a piano cut through a larger production. But in terms of calling it detailed or balanced, I'm just not hearing that. So, but you know, again, that's my opinion. I'm not an expert, end-all, be-all, know everything about every microphone ever. I am just a working producer, mix engineer guy. I've used a lot of mics in the past, and you know, in terms of this one, I hear where it could do really well. You know, again, it sounded great on the Rhodes, on the amp. I'm sure it'd sound great on a guitar amp, you know, with just a normal guitar running through it as well. Piano didn't blow me away. I'd love to hear it on some more sources before I make a total, complete opinion of it, but as of right now, I would consider this more of a specialty or character mic, personally, than I would anything else. So that is just my 2 cents. But what is you guys' 2 cents? What do you think about the N22? Have you used this mic or any of AEA's other mics? Have you used other ribbon mics that have this kind of active extended frequency response designed to them? Whatever your thoughts may be, I would love to hear them in the comments down below. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, we always appreciate that. Be sure to click the notification bell to be kept up to date with our new content. And of course, if you enjoyed the video and you want to give it a like or a share, that would be fantastic as well. But regardless, my name is Alex Scott with Consordini.com. Thank you guys so so much for checking out the video. Thank you so much to the guys at AEA for sending these mics over for us to check it out. We really, really appreciate it. And we will see you guys in the next video.